Welcome to online video lecture for the subject high voltage DC transmission. And the topic today I would like to discuss is overcurrent protection in HVDC transmission. Okay, so let's look into the overcurrent protection. So with the mercury arc converters, the highest overcurrents are produced as a result of backfires. So particularly when they develop into a consequential backfire in another valve. So in the previous session we have seen about these mercury arc converters, right? So there are a lot of drawbacks we have faced in these mercury arc converters. Those are the, I mean, the converter disturbances and all we have seen. So that is a misfire, arc through, and backfires and all. So many of the issues we have seen in this. If you prefer a mercury arc converters, okay, if suppose if these type of converters are preferred, that means if we prefer instead of a thyristors, if we prefer a mercury arc converters, then the same situation arises if the highest overcurrents are produced because of as a result of backfire. So earlier we have seen what is a backfire there. So it gives the opposite direction of current. So actually backfire in the sense the current direction will be in opposite to the required direction. Okay, so with that there may be chance of these rise of the overcurrents. Okay, next along with this backfire, what is the main drawback of this backfire? It should not appear in the line. Okay, so if it is happened, then it is going to be disturb. It is going to disturb the other pole, which is under normal operating conditions. Okay, so even the pole is running, or even a unit is running properly also. So it is going to be interacted in that healthy operated converter also. Okay, so that is the situation there. Next, this situation causes overcurrents to typically 10 per unit. Okay, so this is also discussed in the previous session. So that if the overcurrent rises, so what will be the level of the fault? Okay, I mean, what is the rise of the current there? Actually, if we suppose consider as a 1 per unit, which is our reference value, irrespective of the current rating. Suppose let us consider, for instance, 10 amps. Okay, so it may rise up to 10 times of the referred value. Okay, that is the case. Next, and often requires AC circuit breaker tripping to protect the converter plant, particularly the transformer. So a transformer here in the sense the converter transformer. Okay, so because through this converter transformer only the AC is fed to the converter unit. Okay, so how we are going to protect in the sense, suppose if a mercury arc valves are failed to block this overcurrent, so obviously we have to rely on this AC circuit breakers which are connected nearer to the converter transformer, so that it will not be reversed to the source, or the converter transformer may not be I mean it may be protected from these overcurrents with the help of these circuit breakers, the normal AC circuit breakers. Okay. Next, in the case of thyristor-based HVDC converters, the overcurrent protection settings are decided with reference to the overload capability of the thyristor valves because of their smaller heat dissipation compared to the conventional plant. So this is a basic thing. So if you, in case if you go for a thyristor-based HVDC converter units and the same situation arises, so we are going to fix. We are going to and depend on the thyristor ratings there. So earlier in this HVDC converter unit, all the thyristors will be identical. Basically, it has to be identical there. Okay. So if any overcurrent arises, so we are going to block the this overcurrent based upon the operating levels. That is the operating level of the thyristors, because for each thyristor we are going to place the additional heat sink circuits there. Okay, so that is the meaning of this one. So because of the smaller heat dissipation, so for this in each individual switches in the converter unit, we are going to use the additional protective circuit. So to a certain extent only these circuits are also able to block these overcurrents. Okay, so if we prefer a thyristor based converters. Next, so this is the schematic of the 12 pulse converter unit. In the last previous session also we have seen the same diagram. Just to recall the all the basic things, I have placed the same circuit here. Okay, so this is a converter transformer primary and secondary part. and this is for a one unit converter transformer, and this is for the another unit converter transformer. So for each case we can see yeah, the protection circuits, that is the AC circuit breakers, and for protecting the DC side, and at the valve side if it is a thyristor based converter. Of course this diagram represents the thyristor converters. Okay, so see here, at any instant the fault may occur, and the location is also very important to us. Okay, when the fault is nearer to the thyristor valve, or if the fault is very nearer to the converter transformer, if the fault is at the DC side, likewise situations, different instances we can consider the fault. So at any moment, all these devices, that is the thyristor units, I mean the converter transformer and the DC line, everywhere it has to be protected. Okay, right. Next, a typical valve overload capability is shown in below figure, so which also indicates suggested tripping levels for various disturbances. So, this is overcurrent protection. I mean characteristics there. Based on this, earlier I think I studied in the protective circuits there, so switchgear and protection. So look at the x-axis there, the time period represents, and what about the y-axis? It gives the DC current. Okay, say, in per units. Okay, like suppose if the fault, if the same any situation may arise, so whatever may be the cause there, so here we are going to schedule this fault I mean isolation of the circuit, or any protective devices, how we are going to schedule all these protective devices and all. So that is the main objective of this topic here. So if the fault is occurred between 0 to 10 seconds, okay, per seconds, that 0 to 10 per seconds, and the magnitude is very high there. Okay, look at this. So based upon the magnitude of the overcurrent, I mean this current, and as well as the fault occurring time. Okay, how long it is going to persist there. Okay, based on this we can segregate it as an internal fault, and I mean how we are going to, how which protective devices come into action there. Okay, so look at this. It can be considered as an internal fault. Okay, next what comes into the action means group differential protection. Okay, so overcurrent protection, we have to go for fast tripping because the magnitude levels are very high. So as I said before, if we consider our base, I mean the benchmark value is 1.0 per unit, so it is going to be exceeded there. It may reach even 10 per units. So that is earlier which we have discussed that. So it may reach up to 10 per unit. So our primary duty is to regulate that. So we need to suppress all those things. So the fast tripping should be there. Okay, so next, if it is between 0 to 10, or sorry, if it is between the 10 to 100 there, okay, how about the magnitude? It has been reduced. Okay, so now then which protective device come into the action there? It can be considered as an external fault, and where there we need to protect the line. And what are the protected devices? In the sense, the auto reclosure program, so line under voltage protection, set value reduction. So before that, it is better to see the diagram here. Sorry. Next, so this comes under the if it is between 10 to 100, so it can be considered as an external fault. So what are the I mean what are the preventive measures we are going to take is the line under voltage protection, and how it is going to act in the sense based upon our previous programming and as well as the set value. So I mean whatever may be the preventive actions there. Suppose for let us consider if there are any overcurrents in the HVDC. So how we are going to eliminate that? If suppose if we want to reduce the firing angle or increase the firing angle, or we are going to perform any bias action. So likewise, okay. So and set value in the sense what should be the magnitude. So completely we cannot turn off the bridge there. Okay, so there should be some minimum voltage should be generated, or minimum power should be generated. So likewise, some constraints will be there. According to that, we need to perform these preventive measures. Okay, so we have to clear the fault, or we have to we should not allow the same fault current into the line, or it should not be prolonged there. Okay, So that is the main objective. Next, if the fault, I mean, if the overcurrent is existing between the 100 to 1000 seconds there, okay. And what about the magnitude? So it is of around 1.5 times or 1.5 per unit there. So it comes under the overload. So then it has to perform the overload protection, okay, as per the setting values. Okay. Next, if it is between it is existing between 1000 to 10,000, okay, so it can be considered as the disturbances in normal operation. So disturbances in the normal operation, in the sense, of course, see the magnitude, it is exceeding somewhat. So our reference will be 1.0 per unit, in the sense it may be exceeding, so 1.2, 1.1 likewise. Okay, so it is continuing for a long period of time. So then what may be the cause, in the sense, either it may be from the rectifier or it may be from the inverter. So because of any internal issues, likewise any overlaps or any ripple content, so likewise. So these examples comes, these situations comes under this category. Okay, so disturbances in normal operation, in the sense either from the rectifier end or either from the inverter end, or DC, any DC, if there is any improper DC protection. Okay, so this is about the coordination of overcurrent protection, how we are going to so coordinate, I mean, how we are going to schedule the preventive measures if there is a rise in the overcurrents, I mean, if there is a overcurrents. Next, we will see the steady state short circuit current of an uncontrolled rectifier is limited by the increase in overlap angles, which leads to simultaneous commutations on both halves of the bridge and zero DC voltage periods. So if there is any steady state short circuit current of an uncontrolled rectifier, in the sense, uncontrolled in the sense, if you prefer a all the diodes in the converter unit, that is if you performing rectifier action there, if only the diodes exist, okay, so is limited by increase in the overlap angle. So when comes this overlap angle, sir? When the mu exists, if you perform other than 2 valve conduction mode, so obviously there exists the overlap angles in the rectifier station. Okay, so overlaps, in the sense, see here, actually the meaning of this uncontrolled, in the sense, if you are fixed with the alpha, okay, so this comes under the control strategies, right? Yeah, there are different modes of operation, by keeping minimum alpha, minimum gamma, constant current. Okay, so minimum alpha rectifier, so likewise different modes of operation are there. If you are not at all controlling the rectifier, in the sense, if the alpha is fixed there, so minimum alpha is maintained there, so not to generate the maximum output DC voltage. And of course we can control with the mu also. So in earlier equations also we have seen alpha plus mu. Okay, so it is a combination of alpha plus mu. Okay, by controlling the overlap angle also, to certain extent we can control this overcurrents. Okay, so overcurrent, in the sense, here you can see from 1000 to 10,000 there, it is there are certain disturbances. Okay, so that this may be one of the cause of these disturbances, that is, because of these overlap angles also there may a normal disturbances will be line in the line. Okay, and zero DC voltage, in the sense, uh, if the voltage is made completely zero, from zero it has to rise to its, suppose 1.0 per unit is our reference value, we need to rise the voltage there. So there may be some saturating points will be there. It takes some time to saturate, because through the smoothing reactor it has to reach the smoothing reactor. Okay, so like this, some internal issues will be there. Okay, next. Next, however, this situation will not be permitted to develop in practice, as a fault current is normally reduced by control action. So, as I said you before, by keeping the alpha minimum and making it as a constant there, and to certain extent only we can control these disturbances by using mu. Okay, but practical coming to if we analyze practically, so we need to perform any control action there. So control action, in the sense, whatever the control strategy, it may be a IPC or EPC scheme. So individual pulse control and individual pulse control and equidistant pulse control methods. So mostly we go for EPC scheme, right? So based on that scheme, we can control, we can limit this fault current. So that is the practical situation there. Of more concern, therefore, is the transient short circuit behavior, which requires detailed transient simulation of the converter and AC and DC systems behavior. So simulation in the part, so that's what I mean. Based on this scheduling, okay. So the based on the magnitude of the current and based upon the time period, so how long it is existing. So according to that, we need to perform proper simulation. So simulation in the sense, yeah, this is what exactly it means. I mean, if it is existing between 0 to 10 and the magnitude is very high, we need to perform a fast tripping. Okay, so that means let us consider this. Look at this figure here. Suppose the fault level is very high. It is reaching the converter transformer. Let us consider if the fault occurs very nearer to the first leg of the converter unit. Okay, if these switches are failed to block the current, so obviously it is going to reach the converter transformer. Then we need to perform an immediate action. In the sense, the circuit breakers can come into action. So that is the well and best suited method. Okay, so that our converter transformer may be protected. So likewise, many other examples we'll see one by one. So this is one of the case. Okay, so like that, we need to simulate properly. So that depends upon the magnitude as well as the time period of the fault current. Next, such studies are necessary to provide adequate overcurrent protection without unnecessary trippings. So without unnecessary trippings in the sense, let us consider if in our area any transient case occurs. So there are many minor short circuits are there. So entire power system or entire throughout the area cannot be stopped there. So another feeder can be having the continuous supply. So wherever the fault occurred, so in that particular instant we can isolate the circuit. So that is the best method. We cannot isolate entire entire what I can say, entire system cannot be terminated. Okay, so that is not the best practice. Okay, so wherever the fault is occurred, to that particular instant only, either we can suppress the fault or we can isolate the circuit. So that has to be happened. Next, disturbances causing overcurrents in the converter valves can be divided into three groups. So that is the internal faults, DC line faults, and the inverter and commutation failures. Okay, so what they have exactly mentioned. So we are discussing the inverter part. So after the rectification, so DC line is there, inverter part, and the short circuits. Okay, next, commutation failures may cause long duration overstress if they occur as a consequence of another fault in the receiving end system. So commutation failure. So in the previous session we have seen under converter disturbances, right? So when the commutation failures may happen, okay. So there are more chances at the inverter station. Okay, so because the DC is converted to AC there, and we need to generate the alternate pulses with the help of the switches which are connected in the upper arms and the lower arms. Okay, and there may be, it is under very stress in the sense, high DC power is there, we need to convert into AC. There exists the concept of frequency, so a lot of stress will be there across each switch, and we are going to perform the forced commutation. Okay, so because of these internal any issues in the input side, okay, this may be cause for the commutation failures in the inverter side, because there we are going to perform the forced commutation techniques. Okay, whereas coming to the rectifier, so it comes under the natural commutation. It is not a big issue. Okay, complexity will be less in the process of converting the AC to DC. Okay, but coming to the DC to AC conversion, if there are any internal issues, so or if there are any commutation failures, there are more chances for commutation failures at the inverter side. Okay, so that is because of the overstress. Okay, next, so their effect on the rectifier end current is relatively small. So that is what exactly I mean. Okay, so if the same case in the sense, if there are any overcurrents, so cause may be the different. If the overcurrents exist in the at the inverter side, which there are more chances for commutation failures, then the amount of damage will be very high. Okay, so here it is indicating that if the same situation arises at the rectifier side, so the severity will be somewhat less. Okay, since they are separated from the rectifier valves by two smoothing reactors on the DC line. Okay, so suppose if they so I have said you before that power reversal occurs at the inverter station. Okay, so that reversal power should not reach the rectifier part, so that can be limited or a short period of time, these currents can be limited with the help of the smoothing reactors. Okay, so two smoothing reactors in the sense for the positive pole and for the negative pole. So why two pole or two smoothing reactors in the sense? Again, there they have considered the bipolar transmission. Okay, so out of the three types of transmission techniques, they go for bipolar technique. So that is the meaning of this. Next, last point here. The protection of internal and DC line faults is considered next under the subjects of valve group and DC line protection respectively. So as per the syllabus, we are considered the analysis in the two methods, that is a valve group and DC line protection. Okay. So here we can see the small example, so which we have taken from the other textbooks. So a direct current waveform during a DC line fault. If the fault occurs on the DC side, okay, if any, look at here, look at this diagram. Okay, so if any fault occurs on the DC end, okay, then how this then how this DC line is going to perform that? So what are the changes in the system parameters? So here you can see, this is the time period. X-axis gives the time period, and y-axis gives the magnitude. Okay, so this is the current waveform. So actually 1.0 is the per unit. So that may be 100 amps or 1000 amps or 50 amps or likewise. Okay, so 1.0 is actually our required value. So here you can see, so 2 in the sense it is rising up to 2 per unit, or it may exceed up to 10. Okay, that depends upon the location of the fault and the fault severity. Okay, so the current is immediately it is getting raised. Okay, and after that it is suppressed there. Okay, and again it has to recover. Okay, so the three cases exist similar to our control systems there. Here also, so here it is somewhat a ripple content current is there, it is not constant. So for that only we have placed the smoothing reactor. Okay, so because of any fault here, suddenly the current rises here. Okay, and we need to suppress those large current, or we are going to bias, or we are going to block the bridge, or something, some necessary preventive actions has to be taken. Okay, after that it has to recover, the system has to come back to the original position. Okay, so meanwhile, what is the recovery here? So here you can see, if a short period of time any fault occurs. Okay, so here you can see the two positions, rectifier end and inverter end. Okay, so both at the rectifier end and inverter end, in the sense what are the changes in the currents. Okay, so because it is traveling for a long distance, so main application of the HVDC itself for long distance bulk power transmission. Okay, so these are the uh, changes in the system parameters, that is the current parameters. Next, look at the voltage here. If the same short circuits occurred, okay, or any fault occurred, so direct voltage waveforms during a DC line fault. So look at here, 1.0 is our required value. Okay, so again, because of any fault, what happens, the voltage levels go below our reference line. Okay, see here, you can see here, it has gone suddenly, it has uh, gone below the referred value. After that it is maintained constant. See, it is around 0. So 0 in the sense we have completely taken some measures there. Okay, so we cannot make it as an open, but completely we can make it as alpha, some maximum value, or we can bias the bridge, so likewise. Okay, so some necessary action will be taken according to that. So these voltage levels are 0 and it is maintained constant. After that it has to be recovered. So again, by varying the firing angle at the rectifier, or by varying the extinction angle at the inverter, we need to bring back the system to the original position. So look at here, this area, how it is going to be recovered. So you can see the lot of variations or lot of transitions in the recovery period. Okay, so that's about the performance in the DC line fault. So how the DC I mean perform with respect to the fault, responding how with the fault. Okay, next, coming to the valve group protection. Okay, so let's see the valve group protection. So internal faults cause severe overcurrents because the impedance between the fault location and the AC system source is small. Okay, so if we prefer a thyristor based converters, okay, So if there are any internal faults, so we have seen the what are the causes of the internal faults also in the previous session, and which comes under the converter disturbances, right? So what are the causes of the internal faults? Okay, that may be any changes in these valves, or any variation in the response. If we consider mercury valves, or if we consider thyristor valves, so that may differ as per the operating levels, or based upon their voltage drops likewise. Okay, so to certain extent it can also limit. Okay, but always it has a very low impedance part. Okay, so these the main functioning of placing each impedance circuit. So let us consider the diagram here, it will be having clear idea. See, this is the thyristor valve here. So for this thyristor valve, we are going to attach the protective circuits for each valve, and for the each leg also we are going to use the additional protective circuits. So to certain extent it can limit that. So what is that? Like over currents. Okay, but always we will be knowing that the main function of the protecting circuit is to it acts as a heat sink. Okay, so the impedance will be less. So that is the main concept there. Then what we are going to perform? See, impedance because the impedance between the fault location and the AC system source is small. Okay, so that is the exact meaning of that. If a fault is occurred very near to the valve, so these impedances cannot support in blocking of these valves, because it has a very low impedance value, because the main function of those impedance is it acts as a heat sink there. Okay, next, a terminal to terminal short circuit occurs across one valve, although a rare event, produces the highest overcurrent stress in other valves. Typically, a current peak often per unit can be expected. So, terminal to terminal short circuit across one valve, in the sense, as I said you before, every time we need to assess the voltage across between the two valves, because the number of switches to be turned on is two minimum two switches will be turned on. Okay, of course, those are not from the same leg. Okay, if there are any changes in between these two voltages, so we need to assess that. Okay, and when if there are any short circuit occurs, of course it is a rare event, so that is the meaning of this. So between the two valves, if the voltage levels are uh, gone below the referred value, so that situation arises rarely. So that is nothing but a short circuit case. Okay, at that instant the current is going to be raised there, so it may reaches up to 10 times of the finite value. Okay, so that is the case. Normally, fast suppression of the firing pulses should block the short circuit current, provided that the valves are capable of withstanding the recovery voltage immediately after the fault. So let us consider a small thing. If we are performing any on and off action at the switches. Okay, so suppose if you want to on the switch and if you want to off the switch, if the same short circuit or any fault occurred nearer to the switch, okay, if we are able to block the switch, obviously the current cannot be allowed to the other area or other pole. Okay, or it may not, no, it can be blocked to reach the converter transformer. Okay, if it is suppose failed, so what we have to do, if this switch is not able to bear the stress, okay, so for long period it is going to be under stress when it is in off position. If it is in on position, there is no issue because the voltage will be zero. Okay, but if it is in off position, there is a lot of voltage across this switch, so there will be a lot of stress across the switch. At that moment, if this short circuit occurs, so what happens, the current going to be entering into this switch which is under off stage. So then there may be chances of arc through. Okay, so then it can allow the current to the other and cause a severe damage. Okay, next, however, if the valve is not able to block, so that is the case there, the only way to avoid repetitive overcurrent peaks is by immediate tripping of AC circuit breaker. So that is the preventive measure there. If the valve is not able to block, so that's what I mean. If the switch is in off position, so if there any fault occurs, the fault current cannot be traveled if the switch is in off position. If suppose if it is failed there, because why it fails means a lot of stress will be there across the switch because of what I can say, that is one of the turn on methods. So forward blocking mode. Okay, so right. So if it is an under forward blocking mode or reverse blocking mode, if the short circuit current enters, it may fail to operate the. Okay, then what we are going to perform in the sense, we are going to operate the circuit breakers, AC circuit breakers at the converter transformers. Next, a typical overcurrent protection scheme used for the detection of internal faults in a modern 12 pulse group converter is shown in figure. See here you can have a complete view of what type of protection circuits are connected, at which locations they have been connected, and what are the functionings of these protective devices when it comes to into an action, and all we can discuss here. So this is a 12 pulse converter unit, modern 12 pulse converter unit, as discussed earlier. So this is the converter transformers. Converter transformer secondary winding is connected to the converter unit. Okay, so this is one unit and this is the another unit. These two units are connected in series. Okay, for the transformer, we have used the transformer protection. Similarly, at the for the both the units. Okay, next for the overcurrent protection. Okay, next, which it is across the, I mean, it is connected in series with the converter transformer secondary winding, which is connected to the valves. Okay, next, uh, for this line, they have connected the group differential protection. So as I said you before, so based upon the fault magnitude and based upon the fault occurring time, so we are going to perform the action. So there we have to schedule the action. Okay, so based upon those constraints, we are going to operate these protective devices come into action. Next, coming to the DC side. So look at the DC side here. So pole differential protection, line protection, and line under voltage protection. So pole differential protection in the sense, same, if the DC current rises, okay, so then again we need to isolate the circuit. So that means either we need to isolate from the rectifier, or either we need to isolate from inverter, or it may suppress the currents. So mainly it functions as to isolate the circuit itself. Okay, next, line protection, same, that may be a differential protection. Next, line under voltage. If the voltage levels are gone below the levels, as I said you before, if there are any short circuits, the voltage levels comes under reference value. So that has should not be happened. So all these at, under these different cases, these protective devices come into action. Okay. Next, at the converter side, look at this at the valve side. So they have connected the firing protection and arrestor protection. So in order to avoid from the surge arrestors, okay. Of course, we are using the transformer leakage reactance and we are using the surge impedance, even though we are using the arrestors. Okay, so arrestors in the sense, if any surges attacks or if any surge attacks are there or any strokes are there, so they will be using the counters. Okay, so if one of the, like similar to our fuses, okay, in our households, if they are any using any fuses, so we are well known that we are using circuit breakers, we are using fuses, similar to our electrical machines laboratory also, there we are using the fuses and the circuit breakers. If any failure in the system, so overcurrents are persist in our system, these fuses will be blown off. So what happens, immediately we are going to rectify the issue, and again we are going to connect the fuse there. Okay, or if there are any internal issues, so the circuit breaker starts tripping, so it indicates that some internal uh, issues are there, and it may exceed the current. So based on the current levels, these circuit breakers are going to be operated. Okay, so so that the system can be protected. Okay, so for the firing protection in the sense, so what is the, of course we are using the firing circuits. Okay, so I mean what, that is a gate firing, sorry, firing circuits in the sense, we need to turn on and turn off these switches. Okay, if any fault currents or any cases arises, so with the help of these switches also we can avoid the currents. Okay, we can suppress the currents by making the switch turn off or turn on. Okay, so we can bias this currents. Okay, so this is the overcurrent protection for a converter station with a 12 pulse group per pole. So grouping is known, so valve grouping. So I have said you single valve, double valve, quadri valve. So separately, certain group of thyristors can be monitored there. Okay. Next, if the comparison shows, so if the comparison in the sense, so you look at here, the group differential protection compares the rectified AC current with the DC current. So group differential protection in the sense, see, this unit, okay, it compares with the rectified DC current and the AC. So either at the rectifier end, at the inverter end. Okay, so this functions based upon the rectified DC and the inverted AC. So basically, there will be certain we'll be considering the feedback elements, right? If you want to generate the error, if you want to perform according to the error, so there exist two parameters. So here they have considered, so that is the rectified DC current and the inverted AC. So based upon these two, error going to be generated, and accordingly, so it will perform. Okay. Next, if the comparison shows that DC is greater than the AC current. Okay. So when the firing angle is in the inverter region, so this indicates a commutation failure, and the only action required is an automatic increase in the extinction angle. Okay. Suppose if we want to perform the group, it is going to perform the group differential protection. Okay. If the DC current is greater, so that means the input is greater at the inverter side. Okay. When it happens, so what are the causes means, there may be a chance of commutation failure. Then what we are going to perform means, we are going to increase the extinction angle. So increase of extinction angle means obviously the output voltage is controlled there. So as I said it before, the control parameters are alpha at rectifier and gamma at inverter. Okay. So obviously commutation failure happens at inverter. So how we are going to control the inverter in the sense, by using the extinction angle gamma. Okay. However, if the condition persists, a temporary block is initiated. So temporary block in the sense, we are going to isolate the circuit if it prolongs. Okay. Even though it is with the gamma we are unable to control the situation, so we need to block the unit. So we know the blocking of the unit, right? Next, the case of the AC being greater than the DC current indicates either a backfire. Suppose if the AC is greater than the DC, so that means after the rectification, the process is fine. Okay. If the AC is greater in the sense, there may be a chance of backfire. So backfire happens only at mercury arc converters. So there is no issue with the thyristor based converters. Okay. Or a short circuit in the valve group. So the or another chance is that, I mean, if there is a rise in AC current, so before the inversion, so that means the DC is fine and the AC is higher means there may be chance of short circuits in the valve group and require circuit breaking. So that's what it means. It should not be connected to the grid there. Okay. So before after inversion, so whatever the AC is generated, there we need to block. So for that we are going to use the AC AC circuit breakers. Okay. A non-unit overcurrent protection scheme is also used as a backup with higher tripping level to avoid tripping action during faults outside the station, which can be cleared by control action. Okay. So okay, up to now we have seen all those things. Additionally, we are using a what I can say, a buffering unit. Okay. So non-unit overcurrent protection, non-unit in the sense, for the buffering action, we have chosen another unit, so that if this overcurrent cannot be entered into the grid there. Suppose if you are it is an interconnected grid there. Okay. So with the help of this unit also we can perform this tripping action. Okay. So that the system can be protected. So finally, the detection of ground faults on the DC side relies on a pole differential protection scheme which blocks the converter valves and trips the AC circuit breaker of the affected pole. Okay. So finally, the detection of ground faults in the sense, as I said before, if proper earthing was done, so any fault can be easily cleared there. Okay. Fault may arise, definitely abnormal conditions will be there, but severe damage can be avoided if proper earthing was done. Okay. So here that is the meaning of that. The detection of ground faults on the DC side relies on the potential pole differential protection scheme. So look at here. So if any short circuit or a DC line fault occurs there, so with the help of this pole differential protection, we are going to avoid the damage. I mean, you can bias here, okay, so that the DC, I mean, entire HVDC is protected there. Okay, so next DC line protection. Next scheme is DC faults are more frequent than the internal short circuits and are mainly caused by lighting. So DC faults majorly because of two cases: lightning surges and switching surges. Earlier we have seen the current amplitude is limited by smoothing reactor. So uh, earlier at the starting of the unit also we have seen, so functioning of the smoothing reactor to smoothen the current waveform, which is of ripple content, and by control action to typically 2 to 3 per unit. So it may rise up to 2 to 3 per unit if proper control action, even though if we take a proper control action, if the current rises, so this the help of this smoothing reactor we can limit the ripple current. Okay, next, the detection scheme includes rate of change of voltage and slower backup line under voltage relay. Okay, so here they have given the examples that which response after 3 milliseconds and which response after 50 milliseconds. Okay, so that is the ranges which it performs a backup line. So any preventive measures, that means here you can see, so three situations we have seen. I mean, three units: pole differential, line protection, and line under voltage. So all these for DC protection. If any faults on the DC line, okay, that means here the fault considered is surges. With parallel lines, it is also common to include a rate of change of current comparison scheme to indicate which parallel line is faulty. So again, repeating the same thing. So how this pole differential protection acts means based upon the two current levels. So that is the desired parameter and the fault current level. Okay. The rate of change is set to discriminate between the ground faults and lightning surges, not resulting in ground faults. So commutation failures at the other end of the line produce less steep voltages at the rectifier end and are also ignored. So here it indicates that if the ground fault occurs, I mean if the short circuit, I mean if the surges occurs on the DC line, so this potential pole differential protection is going to protect the DC line, and of course there may be chances because these disturbances will be carried to the inverter station there. Again, there may be chances of commutation failure. Okay, and of commutation failures, how it appears means this input is disturbed there. So how it is going to be means there will be steep voltage. Steep voltage in the sense there is a small rise in the voltage. Okay, so which leads to going to be linked with the rectifier, and it will be ignored there. Ignored in the sense if the DC is fed with any surges, so definitely its impact will be majorly on the inverter side. Okay, so that is the meaning of this. So at the rectifier end, it is not an issue there. Okay, but this DC is depending on the, I mean, the inverter is depending on the rectified DC. Okay, so there will be the major issue. A backup end sorry, a backup under voltage unit is also used to detect high resistance DC line faults, whereas where the rate of decrease of DC line voltage is low. So as I said to you before, again we need a separate backup unit. So backup unit in the sense, here you can see if the DC voltage are gone below the line, so we need again additional preventive measures will be taken here if because of any of these faults, if the voltage levels have gone below the finite value. Okay, next, as we have taken the action in the valve group protection. Although normal current control can limit the current to a small value, this action is not sufficient to extinguish the fault. Okay, so same. Normal, we are going to prefer the current control strategy. So if it is failed, okay, if you are unable to control the current there because of these surges, again we have to rely on the breakers. Okay, last one, the fastest way of bringing the line current to zero is to delay the rectifier firing into the inverter region. As a result, both stations are temporarily inverting to transfer the energy stored in the DC circuit, electric and magnetic fields into two AC systems. So that's what it I mean. If any fault occurs there, so both we need to control them. So that is the rectifier station, and at the inverter station, a proper angles, that is the firing angles and the extinction angles respectively has to be maintain, and we have to bring back to the original position. Okay, after this fault clearing time or during the fault, DC line protection is not needed in back-to-back interconnections as the two converters are located in the same building. Okay, so what does it mean? If we prefer a back-to-back, means which comes under the back-to-back, so that is a bipolar connection. Okay, so it's not needed because these cases are rare. So that what it exactly mean, but practically they'll implement, so they never take any chances of this. And the last one is filter protection. So actually this is not available in our syllabus, but just only one slide we'll have. Next, the capacitor banks are made up of series connected racks of capacitor units in parallel, each unit having an external fuse. Okay, so why we go for filters? In order to avoid the harmonics. Okay, if the same situation arises, if any surges or any fault occurs on the line, so these filters will also be to certain extent it will be useful for protection. Okay, similar to the power system, these filters it can compensate the reactive power to certain extent. Likewise, these filters are also useful for the controlling these fault currents. Okay, with the help of the external fuse. Okay. Next, however, to prevent frequent prolonged shutdowns to replace the fuses, the filter arms are also equipped with overcurrent release. Similar case what we are facing in our households also. If frequent overcurrents are happening, means what we are going to do, of course we are going to replace the fuses. Before that we are using the circuit breakers. So frequent happening means through the circuit breakers it will be easy for us to isolate the system. So every time we cannot go and replace the fuses there. So the fuses has to operate at the extreme cases. Okay, so these have an extremely inverse characteristic and respond equally to fundamental or harmonic frequency over currents. Okay, so in the this situation means extreme cases it has to perform what I have said. A restricted earth fault relay is also provided, which operates during an earth fault within any filter arm. So for earth faults in the sense, same situation what we are seeing in the households. Any fault occurs means proper earthing is there means no issue. The fault severity will be less. Okay. So finally, the filter banks are switched by circuit breakers and the filter arms within the banks by disconnecting switches. Okay. So filter banks in the sense of parallel connected filters at the AC ends. We are going to connect, and for this we are going to connect the circuit breakers for additional protection. So this is about the filter protection and the concepts of overcurrent protection in HVDC. So hope you have understood this session. So thank you.